Well, if you were with us in 2021 and you had the pleasure of hearing James Nottingham speak about productive struggle, you might remember we were in Little Rock, we were in masks, and we walked away with a lot of learning. So much learning, in fact, that when we learned that we had an opportunity to bring him back this year, we couldn't resist. So James Nottingham, he's the creator of the Learning Pit. The Learning Pit is used in many schools across the state of Arkansas. In fact, if you use the Learning Pit, could you give a little raise of the hand? Looky there. Awesome. So he's here today to talk about teacher-student collaboration, and I'm really excited for you for what's in store, and just grateful to have James back with us again in Arkansas. Round of applause, please.
Thank you very much, Crystal. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Well, why did she get a better big good morning than I did? Good morning. Thank you. Lovely to be here with you this morning. It's an absolute delight. I flew in, I landed, and I got to this hotel at 2:30 this morning. I'm doing that for you. Thank you. And I'm flying home tonight, so 6 flights just to be with you today. Do not tell the Green Party that I've done that. I'm not going to talk about the Learning Pit, although what I'm going to talk about today fits very, very well with the Learning Pit and will help with your use of the Learning Pit. I have got a set of slides. I've saved off a PDF of those slides. There's a QR code at the bottom left of the screen. There's a URL there. I will put it back up, and I have also sent it to this fabulous team, and I'm sure they will share it with you also. So all the slides that I'm going to use today in this session and also in the breakout session later on. I've written 12 books. These are the first 11. My 12th book, there's copies of them here, and I've signed them, but I'm going to hang around to see if I can swap some of these books for the amazing prizes down the front. But I mention this book because what you'll see on the slides are some reference points. So you see down the bottom right there, Teach Brilliantly 3.1. Whenever you see that, that refers to a section number in this book, Teach Brilliantly. I tend to refer to section numbers rather than page numbers because my books get translated into lots of different languages. The moment that happens, the page numbers change. Also new for this book is you'll see QR codes that are linked to videos to find out more. So I'm going to be talking about questioning as a way to improve student-teacher collaboration. If you want to share some of the key points with your colleagues, then one of those videos would help you with that. Focus then is teacher-student collaboration. What does that look like? What can we do to improve it? And I'm chosen to focus on the role of questioning. Arguably, one of the most common ways to interact with our students. Look at the numbers. Or look at me. I mean, it's entirely up to you. But look at these numbers here. The number of questions asked per day, early estimates had it at 300 to 400 questions per day. More recent estimates have it 100 to 300. That's a hell of a lot of questions to be asking. How do we even think of that number? We use questioning to engage students. At least that's the theory. Problem is, the practice isn't as powerful as we hope it would be. You see, the typical way to question our students is using an approach IRE. Initiate, respond, evaluate. And that only engages typically 1/3 of students. Only 1/3. The other 2/3 do their best to not get involved. But why? What are they doing? The key part of this is the evaluate. That's what puts students off. If they think their answers are going to be evaluated publicly, 2/3 of kids don't want to offer an answer. 1/3 typically do. I'm going to, throughout this presentation, I'm going to pause, I'm going to ask you to turn and talk with each other to think about the question that I've asked. And so the first question I'd like you to think about is, which is the 1/3 that will typically, willingly offer their answers? And compare that to which is the 2/3 that will avoid that if they can. Turn and talk, please. Okay, let's start with the 1/3 that will willingly offer some ideas. Please shout out, in what circumstances will students offer their ideas? When they know it, when they are sure that they know it, and they're going to get, well done, very good, as you have just done now. Do you feel good about that? Well done, bravo, look at that. See, big smile on her face. How lovely. Who else? Ooh, that's you, is it? We have our gifted child in the room. Thank you very much. It's amazing to be amongst genius. Yep, so those who are confident, they know they've got the right answer, the ones who are used to getting it right, and I might throw in there the confident ones. They've got to be confident amongst their peers to take that risk, because it's a heck of a risk to offer an answer that might be wrong. Because what's going to happen if the teacher tells them that they're wrong? And we don't have to do it in anything other than a gentle, kind way, but still they find out that it's wrong. When we go, ooh, no, not quite. Anybody else? Oh, nice effort, but no, let's think again. So we can be kind and gentle about it, but 2/3 typically are trying to avoid taking part, or trying to avoid at least offering ideas. They might be still taking part, but in terms of offering ideas. Now, let's say I've got some routines to expand the number of kids who offer, or are, at least are required to give answers. So I'm looking around the room, and I'm looking to see who I can encourage, who I can draw answers out of. Let's say, though, you are in the 2/3 category. What are you going to do to avoid being asked? Tell the person next to you. What are you going to do? Okay, let me pause there. Now, listen, folks, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep asking you to turn and talk. So if you haven't got someone to turn and talk to, please do move so that you have. Also, though, if you found that the people you're sat with aren't very clever, then by all means, you can move if you want. You know, I'm not going to take offense. Maybe they will, but just pretend that you're going for coffee or something. So, how do you avoid being asked for an answer then? Yes, please do. Absolutely. Classic one. Absolutely classic. They got their hand up and you think, yes, at last you're going to go to the bathroom. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. What else do they do? Yeah, exactly. They're all sorts of things. How many do you have your students here who give the idea that they're thinking really hard? They're like, whoa. And you don't know if they're constipated or whether they're thinking, oh, like this. And it's as if to say, don't interrupt me because I'm working out some genius here. Or younger kids, often they put up the hand and you think, oh, amazing, you come to them and they go, oh, as if the idea just fell out of their head the moment you looked at them. Classic case of using a strategy, because we always have, and it working, but for fewer students than we need it to work for. Initiate is not the problem. Respond is not the problem. The only thing I would change there is the evaluate. You see, if we can change evaluate for explore, now look at the research. It increases to 2/3 willingly offer ideas. It's still not perfect, but does anybody know of any perfect pedagogical strategy that engages every single student every single time? Because if you do know it, please will you tell us and we can all go home. Anyone? 2/3, much better than the 1/3. But what does it mean to explore and not evaluate? Here are some of the basics. Number 1, do not confirm nor deny. When they give an answer, do not say, yes, very good, well done. And do not say, no, that's not right, when they get it wrong. I can see the math teachers now, their heads about ready to explode. But what if they've got it wrong? Well, if we don't refute. Now, I should have an asterisk there. I should say there's an exception to this, and the exception is if they say something that is intolerable, racist, sexist, something that is intolerable, then we call it out. Of course we do. But I'm talking about academically here, intellectually. If they say something that is wrong, please don't correct it. Yet. And we don't do it face-to-face, one-to-one, publicly. But nor do we say, yes, very good, well done, when they've got it right. Because if we do that, that tells everyone else, back to the same old, give us an answer when you know you're right. Give us an answer when you're confident. Give us an answer when you're gifted. Everyone else, keep your head down and ask to go to the bathroom. This is not to say we let everything go. This is not to say we accept wrong answers. We'll work around to getting the right answer. But we have to do it in such a way that we explore rather than evaluate publicly. The sorts of follow-up questions. Here are some examples. But it's not going to be one-on-one. So you're not going to ask a question and you get somebody offering an answer and then you go into a head-to-head with them. It's much more about, ooh, interesting. Can you all turn and talk and have a think about that? Or can anybody think of an example that would work or wouldn't work? Can anyone give a reason? Could anyone explain what you think she meant by that? And so we're opening it up more for exploration rather than evaluation. And look at the research. Increase the willing participation to 2/3 rather than 1/3. How about that for improving teacher-student interactions and collaboration? What does it look like in practice? Well, I mentioned the mathematicians before. They are the ones who kind of go, oh, hang on a minute. We can see how it works with history, Because it's kind of, that's a point of view, and we can think about it with literature, because again, it's how we are interpreting it often. But what about with maths? Well, let me show you what we might do. Could you all please calculate 25 multiplied by 9? Will you all do it now, please? Work it out and write down the answer. Okay, so incidentally, and I will circle back to this, I promise, but I would never ever do this in the classroom the way I'm doing it with you. Because what we don't have right now is a way for you all to share your answers with me quickly and easily. Individual whiteboards would be a classic way to do that. I wish I had shares in mini whiteboards, because I'm on a mission to get every one of us using mini whiteboards pretty much every lesson all the time. And if you don't, please, please, please share with me how on earth you get responses from pretty much all the students in the short time that you've got. So, caveat. I wouldn't do it this way in the classroom, because you haven't got mini whiteboards or something that you're going to be able to hold up and show your answers. But I'm going to skip to the next part, because in the classroom what I would do is I'd get them to calculate that, and I would get them to do it on mini whiteboards, and once they're ready, they would show me their answers. And I'm looking around the room, and I'm not saying, very good, well done, great, well, no, think again. I'm just looking around the room to get a sense of where are we at. Have we got them all able to calculate this? Or are there some who are thinking, I don't even know where to begin? Have some done it quickly and got it wrong? Have some done it quickly and got it right? I need to know that. I need to have a sense of that. I need to look around and to see. But here's the next step. Before we share some ideas, could you please turn to the person next to you and tell them, how did you calculate that? Okay, so now in the classroom I would get the students to offer me their answers, but more importantly how they did it. We're a big room right now, but let's see. Some of you, please say, what was the strategy you used? Yes? You did 25 times 10, and then you took away one lot of 25. Could you tell the person next to you why you think she did that? Anybody, why do you think she did that? Because it doesn't say 25 multiplied by 10, it says 25 multiplied by 9. So why do you think she did 25 multiplied by 10? What's that? Okay, keep going. So multiplying by 10 is easier than multiplying by 9. Is it? Why? Tell the person next to you, why is multiplying by 10 easier than multiplying by 9? Anybody? Help me out here. Why is multiplying by 10 easier than multiplying by 9? You add a 0? You add a 0? Okay. We have the union representative over there who is trying her best to increase your salary by adding a 0. Woohoo! Who is happy to get $0 more in their pay packet every single month? Raise your hands. She didn't mean that. Of course she didn't mean that. Tell the person next to you what she meant, because I'm just having a bit of fun there. What did she mean when she said add a 0? Tell the person next to you. Okay, I'm going to pause. You can see, I'm sure, the way in which I'm recommending. We're not going to keep going with that, but how I've just started to interact with you is the way that I'm recommending we bring this research to life. Notice, I still want us all to get the right answer. But notice how it's more exploratory and it's not trying to put somebody on the spot. She was willing to give us her answer. I'm very grateful for that, but what I want to do is open it up. Tell each other, why do you think she did it that way? And then we get to, well, it's easier to multiply by 10 than by 9. Okay, great, but why? Tell the person next to you. And then here are some other questions that I might then go on to ask. Did anyone solve it in a different way? And invariably there is. Did anyone do it where they thought, well, 4 25s make 100? Yep. So we've got a few of you there doing that. I notice that quite a lot more in countries such as your own where you've got quarters in with your money. But 4 25s makes 100. We can talk about that. How did you know that? Well, I just knew it, but why? Where do you see that taking place? Are there any other ways then? Any other ways that you could solve this? And so some talk about do you call it the column method or the line method? But even when they're doing that, we're asking questions. So I did it with, I was asked by the International Baccalaureate, you know, the IB that run curriculum and qualifications for a lot of international schools. And I was asked by the IB to create a set of training videos for them recently. So I popped over to Amsterdam, went to an international school there, and one of the things I was demonstrating was this, and I asked them about this. It wasn't that number particularly, but let's say it was. 25 times 9, could you show me? And this girl, she would be grade 6, she said 25, and then she put 9, and she did 5 times 9 is 45. You write the 5 there, you put the 4 up there. And I went, whoa, why did you put the 4 up there? Because that's where it goes. Okay, but why does it go there? Because my mum told me to. Okay, but turn and talk. Anybody know why she put the 4 up there? And all of them said, that's just where it goes. I said, but why put the 5 down there and the 4 up there? Why not the 4 down there and the 5 up there? And they're like, what are you even talking about? But it turned out most of them didn't understand that 4 was not 4. It was 4 10s, exactly. And so then the 4 10s cannot go into the ones column. It can't go into the units column. So I was finding out a lot more about these kids from taking this exploratory approach. These are the sorts of questions that I could ask to take that further. Now, I mentioned individual whiteboards. And I hope you don't feel as if I'm going to overdo this, but seriously, if you don't have a way to get most kids sharing their answers almost instantly, well, let's say simultaneously, how are you getting an insight into what they think? Let me give you a really frightening example. I was working in New Zealand last month. A lot of what I do is do demonstration lessons. Give me any class, any group of kids, I'll work with them, you watch, and then we talk about it afterwards. And I was working in Christchurch in New Zealand, which some of you will know had suffered an earthquake a few years ago, a devastating earthquake, and most of the schools were destroyed in that earthquake. So what they've done is they've rebuilt it by putting elementary and middle schools together, rather than having them separate. So I went to this school where it was an elementary, it was a sort of K-8 school, and I did some demo lessons, and it was with grades 7 and 8. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but I use this as an example, and then we went into a lot more conceptually based things, but I used that 25 times 8, and get this. New Zealand has got an extremely good reputation for education around the world. And in that grade 7 and 8, 2/3 of the students were only just about able to multiply 25 times 9. 1/3 had no idea where to begin. None. They had no strategy. And they were grade 8 in a country with very high reputation for learning. When we talked about it, the teachers said we had no idea that 1/3 of our kids didn't know how to multiply two numbers together. Why didn't they know? How come those kids have got to grade 8 and the teachers didn't know? Tell the person next to you, what's your theory? Okay, so here's what the teachers decided. They reflected on the fact that almost always, when they do questioning, they use initiate, respond, evaluate. And who takes part in the evaluate? The 1/3 of kids who do know, who can do it, who are sure of their answers. So in amongst the 2/3 that aren't taking part willingly, half of them are actually hiding the fact they don't know how to do it. They're keeping their heads down. They're watching what other people are doing and copying. They're avoiding the gaze of the teacher. And they'd got to year 8, grade 8. And the teachers hadn't spotted that. But you talk about, Crystal, me being here in 2001, and we all had maths. At the same time, I did lots of demo lessons. I was in Chicago doing lots and lots of demos in the south side of Chicago. And they've got really strong accents. To me, I know not to you, but to me, there's really strong accents. And then they've got masks on. And I know apparently I've got an accent as well. So it was a really interesting set of demo lessons. And I went in with a grade 9 pre-algebra class. I didn't even know what pre-algebra meant. That's not a phrase we use back home. And again, I did this similar approach as a warm-up. And there were kids in those grade 9 classes, pre-algebra, who didn't know how to multiply 2-digit numbers together. But there was one, his technique was he wrote 25 down 9 times and then he added them all together. And all his friends were like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Well, I'm adding them up." And they were saying, that's going to take a long time. And he was saying, yeah, but I got it right. And one of them said, well, what do you do if you have like 25 times 50? He says, it's going to take a lot longer. I'm like, what? What's going on? Now, if I take exploratory approach and I have a way to get them to show me what they're doing right now, simultaneously, I'm not waiting for 1, 2, 3, 4 people to answer. I'm looking around to see what's going on. Now, some people say to me, yeah, okay, it works with the teenagers, but what about the youngest kids? Well, doing a demo lesson with some grade 1s, and we were doing the parts of the sentence. Children, what does every sentence begin with? And of course, some of them said, a capital letter. Children, will you all write a capital T on your boards now, please? Some of them were. Some of them were like looking at each other thinking, what's he just asked? Some were like doing a nice little sunshine, nice little doodle. And we talked about question marks. Can you draw a question mark? Can you do an exclamation mark? We don't have to get them writing full sentences, and this isn't just for maths, but I want to be able to, at a glance, see what's going on. So we call them knee boards or table boards. If they're sat on the floor, they're young kids, then they've got them on their knees. If they're sat at tables, then table boards. And I like the idea then you use chin boards. When you've got an answer, when you think you are ready, you turn your board around and you hold it under your chin. So you're not waving it around like a placard. It's there so that we can see at a glance what it is that they're doing. Here's some quick responses. If I were to tell you that A completes whatever it is I've asked them to do in normal time, and then B has done it really quickly and easily, and C thinks they might have it right, and then D, E, and F not sure where to begin, whiteboards tell me that. They tell me who's who. And then I can interact differently. For those who have completed it in normal time, I can ask them to compare with their partner. So turn and talk. How did you do it? Think of alternatives. But B, and a lot of people notice this when I do demo lessons, B, please don't praise them. Please don't say, very good, well done, that's brilliant. Because that then, all the other kids are thinking, oh, she's got it right. And they look to see what she's written down, and a lot of them will write it down on their board. So instead, I would recommend that we say to them, wow, you found that really easy, let's make it more interesting, and then you add some more challenge. This links to what I was talking about in 2001. So doing that, you could say, wow, you found that really easy. Tell you what, add 2 decimal places to each number and go again. And so now there's 2 or 3 kids thinking, well, how am I going to do that? Because I want them to be challenged. Again, C is the same as A, compare with your partner. But D, E, and F, ask them, what were you thinking? And you'll see them going, offer them alternatives, offer them examples. So were you thinking, well, 9 is quite close to 10, so you could do 25 multiplied by 10? Because the 10s, that's quite easy, isn't it, when we think about it? And they're like, But you're giving them a starting point, a gentle starting point, so that they realize this collaboration with the teacher is not a threat. It's not a threat to my ego. It's not a case of only collaborate if I know I've got it right. It's I can explore this and I can get involved. Okay, so how quickly does it happen? How quickly does this questioning happen? What do you think is the wait time? The average length of wait time between me asking a question and either somebody answering or me repeating it because I think nobody's understood what I said. What do you think is the average length of time that we wait? Here are some options for you. Turn and talk. Make a decision. Which one do you think it is? Okay, folks, we're going to take a vote. Raise your hands for option A, less than 1 second. Option B. Option C, D, or E. Okay. So the answer is, drum roll please. It is A. Less than 1 second, 0.9 seconds. That's not a lot of time, is it? Tell you what, let's have a maths competition, people. Who will be the first person to shout out the right answer to 10% of 12? Woo, that was quick. All righty, 25% of 110. 27 point something. You know, there's something after it. Yeah, okay. Anyone got the point something? 0.5. Okay. Let's go for 1/5 of 200. Ooh, very quick. Okay, let me pause there. How many of you, when I said let's have a maths competition, who's going to be the first to shout out, thought to themselves, that ain't going to be me? Raise your hands in the air. How many of you thought, yeah, I'm out? And you're the flipping teachers. What do you think the kids are going to do? And that's the problem. When we are going fast-paced, so many students are thinking, well, I'm not going to be the first, so what's the point? They're not even going to try. And that's even before you start adding in some complexities. I've got 3 kids. My middle child is autistic. Brilliant with maths, but is autistic. And his reading capabilities are very, very, very low indeed for his age. So, a teacher asks a question, a mathematical question. He thinks to himself, I know maths. I'm pretty good at that. He starts to calculate it. He's working it through in his head. He's got it just about right. He's just making sure, yeah, I've got it right. He puts his hand up in the air. That whole process has taken maybe 10, 12 seconds. The teacher says, yes, Harry. And Harry gives an answer to a question that was asked 5 questions ago. What do you think happens now? Ha ha ha! Harry's slow. And Harry never, ever, ever takes part in math lessons anymore. He's 14. Because he's learnt you'll be made to look foolish. But if Harry knows he's got time to work it out, jot it down on a board, he's got the time to think about it, the teacher's going to be seeing if other people need a bit more of a challenge and extension, they'll get that. If others need a bit more time, they'll get that. If those who are doing it in so-called normal time, they'll get the next thing to do. If he knows he's got time, he'll take part. If he thinks he hasn't got time, all hell will break loose, because Harry, like so many kids, will much rather cause trouble than be spotted as stupid. He wants his teachers to think he's naughty, and he loves his reputation for being naughty, because nobody talks about him as being slow or autistic. They talk about him being naughty. And he gets kudos from his mates for that as well. So, Mary Budd Rowe found that if instead of 0.9 seconds, we increase it to at least 2.7, let's round it up, let's call it 3 seconds. But the magic number is 2.7 seconds or more. If we do that, then just look at these outcomes. They are extraordinary. Length of responses increases between 300 and 700%. More evidence is given by students. Students start to ask questions. Lots of student-to-student exchanges go on. Student confidence increases. Disciplinary moves decrease. I don't need to start telling them to concentrate and listen and stop messing around, because what are they doing instead? They're focusing on their thinking. And you look at that, achievement improves. basically, we just got to slow down. Slow down. Now, I mentioned I do demo lessons, and I work hard on making sure I demonstrate wait time. But it turns out that there are two wait times. Wait time 1 and wait time 2. Wait time 1 is after I've asked the question. Wait time 2 is after they've responded. And by far the most impactful wait time is wait time 2. We tend to be pretty good at wait time 1 because we say things like, I'm going to ask a question and I want you to take time to think about it, confer with each other, and then I'll take some responses. Even better, if we've got whiteboards, then they start doing it on the whiteboards and then you've got a sense of how long they need. But wait time 2 feels weird. When they give a response, give nothing away. Don't nod, don't smile, don't frown, just wait and see what happens. Now, when I first came across that research, I thought, oh, for goodness sake, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? So I've been working on it, and I was in Australia recently doing lots and lots of demonstration lessons. There was a group of grade 7s, and the first student gave a response. I didn't say anything. So the student looked at me and thought, and so added some more. And I still didn't say anything. So then she gave an example. And I still didn't say anything. At which point this one boy leaned over and said, is it because you're British you don't understand? I understand Australian, for goodness sake. So then later on in that lesson, they're doing this and I'm doing all this wait time. And then this girl was saying something, and then she added an example, and then she gave a reason, then her friend gave something, and then one of the boys at the back said, what she means is, and then gave them, and there was a visible reaction from the 20 teachers sat at the back who were watching this lesson. And I thought, that's interesting, I wonder what's going on. I asked them afterwards, and said, that boy is autistic, and we've never, ever, ever heard him say anything in front of a whole class. He will talk to his friend, but he'll never say it to everybody. But at that point, he felt that here's my opportunity to say something. And this research shows it's even more powerful for at-risk kids. If you have at-risk kids, and I'm sure you have vulnerable kids, then this makes an even bigger difference. We have to shift from initiate, respond, evaluate to initiate, respond, explore, and we have to slow down so that we're giving them at least 3 seconds, not just after I've asked the question, but also after they've responded. Okay, I hope you found that useful. I'm going to go into it in a bit more detail in my breakout and then look at how we get the students to collaborate with each other. But for now, thank you very much indeed. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have fun. Thank you.